So, good day, dear colleagues. As I said, we're starting the very interesting session now. My name is Oleg Grigoryuk. I'm from Marine Transport Workers Trade Union of Ukraine, holding the position of the first vice chair. And we're absolutely happy to be here among our social partners with the good help of TK Foundation and with good help of IMEC, where we were so happy to take that opportunity and to bring cadets from Ukraine to discuss the issues which are absolutely important as we understand, because we do believe that the new generation will deal with what we are discussing here today. We are discussing it now, and they're going to deal with those fruits and maybe challenges of what we will decide, of what the decisions we will make, and the perspectives we're going to draw for ourselves. So I will pass it on now to Adam and let this interesting show begin. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Adam Lewis, and I'm the head of training and operations at IMEC.
It was mine, Adam.
I'm sure it was. What we want to do today at this last section is look at the future leadership of the industry, because there's been a few reports spoken about today which are looking at the industry at 20, 30, 40 years' time, up to 2050. And everyone on this panel discussion today, including the chairs, are still going to be in the industry at 2050. And we're going to have to manage this change. So what we want to look at today is the way that perhaps we as younger people interact with technology and how we're going to have to adapt the industry to meet the demands of the future. We now want to introduce you to the people who are going to lead this technology interface within the shipping industry. So we're going to ask the cadets to introduce themselves one at a time. And I just want to ask you all of an initial question of why did you choose a career in the maritime industry? So perhaps we can start with Tom. Just use...
Yeah, take a deep breath.
Hello everyone, my name is Tom Sanders and I'm a deck cadet with Warsash Maritime Academy, which is now in partnership with Solent University. Why did I decide for a career at sea? Ever since I was very young, I'd been sailing dinghies, so kind of brought up in and around the sea. My twin sister actually is also studying a deck cadetship, but she's about a year ahead of me, so I already started a different degree to start with, and after a lot of persuasion from her, hearing all these stories about where she's been going, and I've just been sat in a lecture hall, half asleep, I decided that a different career that would be challenging and I get to see the world. So, yeah, that's why I chose a career at sea.
Hello everyone, my name is Omelianenko Yevhen. I am from Kherson State Maritime Academy, cadet of Marine Engineering Department. Since my study, I am fourth-year cadet, I spent 2 contracts on board a German ship owner, which is Orion Dry, 6 and 7 months contract on Panamax bulk carriers. During my contracts, I participated all kinds of jobs. I've participated all daily operation of the vessel, such as bunkering operations, such as daily maintenance, overhauls, and so on and so forth. And I did my best to make operation of the vessel smooth and safe. As about my choice, why did I choose this profession? Modern world's pace of development, of technological development, is incredible nowadays, and it continues growing, as it was shown on the video. And shipping is part of industry which is on the edge of this technological development, and possibility to become a part of this was the main reason of my choice to become a seafarer. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Thabit Chourdhury, and I'm, like Tom, a deck cadet studying at Warsash Maritime. I'm sponsored by Royal Caribbean, and I've already had 1 contract out at sea, and just finished phase 3 yesterday. So now I'm moving on to phase 4, and I'm going to spend a year out at sea. And I chose a career at sea because, like Tom, I sailed dinghies since I was a kid. So for around 9 years now, I've been sailing dinghies, working on yachts, and it sort of paved the way for the only thing I felt that was suited for me was a career at sea, which is why I picked this.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you for having us here. My name is Anastasiia Kalynchak, and I study at the National University Odessa Maritime Academy. To be honest, when I was at school, I didn't know who I want to become and what do I want to do with my life. And I've known that I wouldn't like to work in some boring office. My attraction to the sea was one of the main reasons why I didn't want to leave my city, Odessa. And apparently my attraction to the sea became my only option of the job I want to have in the future. So I applied to the National University Odessa Maritime Academy, but unfortunately I didn't manage to get to the navigation faculty because of my eyesight. So now I'm taking management, maritime management as my major, and because I wanted to connect my life with the sea, at least from shore, and I'm still considering going to the sea, like on some cruise ships. And now I'm working in the office of the MTWTU because my vision is to help people who can go to the sea while I can't do it temporarily. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Todorov Oleksandr. I'm a student of National University Odessa Maritime Academy. I'm the cadet of Stargate Ukraine. It's the K-Line pure car carriers company. And about my choice of this job, I guess that the job of seafarer causes a lot of disputes. As to some people says that it's a job of their dream, and someone said that it's very hard. As for me, after some small experience at sea, I can show some advantages of this job. Of course, in Ukrainian realities, for example, the salary, because the average Ukrainian shore worker will receive maybe $150 per month, and at sea we have a perfect opportunity to feel yourself good and to enjoy your life with enough amount of money. Also concerning the career ladder, it's also a very nice opportunity to make it fast and to become a successful person in small time. But the most important thing in this job and in every job to enjoy and to cope with all the difficulties and to be sure and confident in yourself.
Where do you see yourself in 15 years?
All the reasons that were spoken by us are important. But as about me personally, I work with some experienced chief engineers and second engineers, and the view of when some problem occurs, person comes, investigates, gets the decisions, and starts solving it. And after that, you see the result. It's something great, really. I rarely see such people on shore. And these chief engineers and second engineers for me became an example. And my goal is to become such level of specialist of such level, not only on the paper, on my certificate, but in real. Just to have some problem vessels, for example, with some failure that not everybody can solve. And shipping company calls you just because they know you're a specialist, you're a good specialist, you are required. The main formula for me to get high salary in modern world is that the harder it to replace a specialist, the higher salary he has. That's why if you improve yourself, if you improve your knowledge, if you get together theoretical and practical development and level, you will get high salary. It cannot be in another way. Thank you.
My view in regards to your question would be, I think there would be more of a push towards these kind of remote control centers, as you were saying. I can't really, I have to say I've only been studying this for about a year and a half, but I think we're a long way away from having fully autonomous ships, and I'm not really too sure how you tackle the whole engineering side of autonomous ships. Yeah, that's what I have to say on that one. Thank you.
How would you feel about progressing a job and becoming a remote operator? Would that appeal to you, or would it be something you totally stay against?
I'd say that I did. I'd say one of the main reasons I joined the Merchant Navy was to travel around the world. But I guess it would be appealing in, say, later in life, I wanted to settle down or anything like that, then having a shore-based job doing the same thing in a little way would be quite appealing. But no, right now, I think that wouldn't be appealing to me.
I spoke with many seamen during my sea apprenticeship, and everybody says that when they start their seaman career, they are not going to work as a seaman the whole life. They're going to work some time, and after that to settle down on the shore, not to suffer this missing to your relatives, to your wife, and something like this. And I agree with them, but finally they're still working, and they're working the whole life. As we are talking about automation, it would be perfect if we have such opportunity to settle down on shore and to have this same job, enjoy our interests, and work connected to the sea, but at shore, and enjoy time spent with our relatives and families.
And in my opinion, although I'm not a seafarer, but I'm concerning that automation may have both positive and negative impact on the social life of the seafarers and on the whole industry, because it brings some kind of revolution to the maritime industry at all, because it needs some improvements in the education, it needs modernization of educational system, and also it needs modernization of cargo handling equipment and systems and all, because if the ship is unmanned, the cargo handling operations should be also automatic. And at this point, I think that automation is really good on its early stages when it may help, for example, women to work at sea because it reduces physical labor, or, for example, when the decision-making support helps seafarers to adapt in difficult situations, but there is a very thin and fragile line between the efficient collaboration of people and machinery and the slavery, as it was said earlier. And everyone watched the Space Odyssey, and what can be if the person becomes a slave of the machine. So I don't say that automation is bad, but we also need to think about all those people who will be affected by it. Thank you.
Did we scare you enough with all this discussion about automation and unmanned vessels? Are you demotivated to continue with your careers, or you are confident that your hard work will still be needed after the next number of years?
Nowadays, automation is widely involved into our everyday life. It makes our lives easier, it makes our jobs easier to handle, and it makes our environment safer and more comfortable. It's a fact that is impossible to refuse. But there is an uncontestable fact also that technologies will not make us better. You know, if you are some scientist that study some medical some medical disease, and you have technologies helping you, you will be successful and you will solve some important problems. On the other hand, if you are a crimer with technologies, you will become a much more much stronger crimer. You will make such crimes that will harm much more people. That's why technologies and automation is something that we should be very accurate with. As about my expectations about future automation of marine industry, It is a well-known fact that the amount of crew on board will be reduced, but we cannot say that those who will remain will be chosen randomly. They will not. This will be a high-level specialist. This will be specialists who will be able to handle this automation. And that's why I always say to cadets who subordinate me, and I make myself to improve myself constantly, not to say just, this skill I don't need, this will be made by automation. No, we cannot rely on it. Today, on the first speaker told that, mentioned about Catastrophe of Boeing 737. And this is a very good example. This is when pilots couldn't say no to automatic systems. My opinion, as we develop automation, we develop it, we always should have shut-down button to say, no, stop it, I will make it better. Just if pilots have this button, they just switch off automation system and at least they will land the plane safely. The other question is, who will say shut down automation? He should say, I will make it better and be able to make it better. From where to take such specialists? I am very thankful to Orion Balkers who provided me with 2 contracts just because it was not a challenge for me, it was just a possibility for me to get skills, to get extremely valuable skills. And the future generations, in case of implementation of automatic vessels, they will not have this chance. That's why we appreciate the development of autonomous ships, but we should mention that not all fleets should be automated. As I said before, conventional ship should be, I think they should still be present. While autonomous ship will earn money, conventional ship at least will train the crew and also earn money because they are profitable as well. And this is our point of view. So we cannot say that automation is everything for us, but we cannot say that it is a bad idea. So we should find some golden average solution. Thank you.
So you're all at the start of your careers, and congratulate you. Can I take an opportunity to congratulate you for that, and I wish you the best of luck. But what I want you to think about, instead of being at the start of a career, I want you to think as if you were the owner of the company that you're working for, or the CEO, or the person running the business. What technology, as that company owner, would you now, as the CEO, not the cadet, would you introduce to make that company more efficient, more safe, whatever your goals are, what do you think your priorities are? Can you think about what technology you would implement? Not the boss, now as in the position of thinking of the boss in charge of all of these ships.
If I'm owner, yeah.
Yeah, as the boss. Yeah.
If I'm owner, of course company should be profitable, it should earn money. The other thing, if the company expects to stay present on market, on worldwide market, and to develop somehow, they should think about the future. And the first thing that would be implemented in my shipping company is the cadetship program. And cadets would be supported widely during their study, during their being on board. It would be controlled and studied. Maybe I also try to implement some autonomous ship and support the scientific researches. But I would pay also attention to the crew, to make people interested, to maintain my vessels, to provide them with opportunities, to provide them with possibilities, to feed their families, just live all their lives in levels that they deserve. And the levels that they deserve. Some golden average. I will not, surely I will not make all ships of my company autonomous. I don't believe in automation so much, but it's the future. We cannot refuse it.
I will partly answer the previous question and this from 2 sides. In my opinion, concerning to the navigation, the automation plays a very big role. It, of course, makes the life of navigators easier at some side. This navigation equipment, including ECDs, makes us free of the paper charts, we all know. But the problem is another. For example, the amount of the documentary is becoming more and more each year, and for the third officer it becomes a big problem from the physical and the moral side. And this big amount of paper job makes him to be tired, which is leading to the human factor, which we were discussing before. And also, what is, in my opinion, is the biggest problem is over-reliance and complacency of the current seamen, because they are sure that this automatic equipment on the bridge will not help them, but will decide, will make them free of their decisions and will make all their jobs. So it's very wrong way. We should understand that this equipment is made for assistant navigator, and this supplementary equipment. So, and concerning the technologies, if I were the ship owner, I think that we also discussed before about the different interfaces of the EGDIS because of the different manufacturers. And I guess it would be a very good idea to create some common display. For example, if the IMO will make up some standard regulations and requirements for this common display, which every navigator will study, maybe on some courses or in academy, and if he arrives on the vessel, he already knows how to use it. I think it would be very nice.
If I was a ship owner, I wouldn't refuse to employ people, especially officers, because automation is really good in reducing human element, like in reducing possibility of accidents due to the human element. But also, if there is too much of automation, we can use the positive effects of the human element. So it's seafarers' creativity, it's their resilience to, and their ability to react quickly in some situations. So I would prefer maybe decision-making support systems, and maybe if there are some such possibilities, some partly automated equipment which maybe should allow not to keep 24 hours watch on the bridge, for example, but I would not refuse to employ people at all.
I think I work for Carnival UK, so cruise ships, and they're already highly advanced equipment, like very much, I should say, like a glass cockpit for aircraft. One thing that I feel could be quite beneficial would be, let me tell you a little story that I was told when I was on watch once. They had another cadet, it wasn't me, I swear, where one of the qualified officers walked in front of him and wrote with a whiteboard marker, I can't remember what he wrote, in front of him, and it took him about an hour or so to realize that he'd wrote that there because this cadet was just staring at the radar screen in the EGDIS. So how can we stop that, I guess, for, I'd say, new seafarers, perhaps, maybe possibly augment or AR, augmented reality. Can we bring some sort of glasses or goggles that maybe detect ships, feed from radar and AIS, and it can point it out for you? Maybe even before you see it with your own eyes, there could be some sort of highlighted square that would bring your attention so you know that that's where it is. Yeah, I think that could be quite good. I've seen that on some motorbike helmets do that, and they bring up how fast you're going, and a bit like Google Glasses, but for seafarers. I think that might be quite beneficial. Thank you.
Sorry, my question is, if you had a magic wand, this to all of you, if you had a magic wand and you could make changes to the way you've been educated so far, or make changes to the way you live your life on board the ship, do you have any suggestions about what should change to enable you to deal with the disruption of the world as we've seen it today, to prepare you for that?
Why Ukrainian school, maritime school, is quite strong? Because during Soviet times there was a separate ministry of Soviet fleet that decided who will teach seafarers in maritime schools. Now it's only Ministry of Transport, and in my academy just there is a lack of seafarers who know what vessel is teaching us. I would employ them, and in future, if I will be a high-level specialist, I would accept this teaching someone, because the most valuable lections, the most valuable lessons are taught us by those who know what is sea and what specialists should we be to maintain and operate the vessel. Theoretical part should be present, but not as wide as it is represented now.
Okay, for a second, I want to, just a lyrical one, because 15 years back I heard the story of the Cadet, and I swear it was me. When the master came on board on the bridge, using the ninja skills, and just switched off all the GPSs. And then he asked all those who were on the bridge to find the position of the ship. And that's why I'm making this point, because I hardly could make it on the map. The rest didn't even could fit into the map to put the point of the position to the map. So what I'm trying to say, that the traditional education should stay as long as we understand it's needed to make these people aware that if something malfunctions, they can do it traditional way and to guarantee their safety. Just a short one. Anybody else? Magic, how you call that? Magic wand. Yeah, Harry Potter.
As to the basics, I agree, because the basics are basics, and when you start working, you should know. But if I had this magic wand, I would like to implement this virtual reality education, because as I heard and as I think, it will make the situation much easier, and it will make you like the simulation of you being in some real situations, including some maybe mooring operations, some maintenance in engine room, some navigation, maneuvering on the bridge, and when you will start working, you will have some virtual, but anyway, it's some experience. Practical experience.
Say that you're finished your education, you are a very impressive group of cadets. You have a number of companies wanting you to come and work for them. So look apart from wages, what would be the single thing, the single factor that would make you choose one company over another? Would it be the length of the contract? Would it be the accommodation? Would it be the internet connection? What would be that one thing that would make you want to go to that company?
I don't know how to find out before you are working in the company about this question, about this thing, which I think is one of the most important. This thing is people, because this microclimate on the vessel where you are working is very important, and your relations with your colleagues, with different departments on the vessel is really one of the most important things, because the accommodation can be not perfect, the contracts can be longer than you wanted, but this microclimate and your relations with people makes the contract much easier, and you are enjoying your job, talking with people, especially in my company. During my 3 contracts which I completed, I had perfect relations with the officers, And of course, we follow this subordination, but all officers try to do their best to teach something, to show the things to me, and not looking at your nationality. So this is as for me.
The perfect company that I imagined that I would happy to work for is a company that will give me opportunities to develop myself, that would be interested in my own growing, that will not find as a specialist who is has better qualifications than me, but will be interested to develop myself. For example, as far as I can imagine it, 6 months contract is a very long contract, especially for officer. For example, if I have 4 months on board that I work for a company and I earn money for companies, that I maintain some ship, when I come home, for example, they send me, for example, a message. Now there are courses, for example, Mr. Yevhen of electronic operated engines with electronically operated injections. There are courses, we buy you flight tickets, we pay for that, you are invited. That's great, I would use these opportunities. You know, and for example, that they will give me opportunities to grow. This is a company of my dream.
Yeah, just reiterating what was said before, I think it's definitely the people that make the contract what it is. I think connectivity, being able to talk with people from home, keeping connected is, again, something that appealed to a lot of seafarers. I think it cost about £15, this is for the crew, £15 for, I believe it was like 300 megabytes of data on board, which is mental. So I think offering high-speed connectivity to crew members is definitely something that's going to increase the well-being and happiness in general. Thank you.
Paul?
So at the beginning we talked quite a lot about ECDIS, and there was lots of talk about how the training for that was inadequate and everything else. Out of the I'm not sure if you're all dechies or not, but for the dechies in the room, how prepared did you feel when you first went on board, first started using the ECDIS, first started trying to navigate on it? Was it a kind of learn as you go along, or did you feel like you could kind of crack into it just based on the courses you did?
Speaking on behalf of myself, I do the HND rather than the FD program. So same qualifications at the end, but the structure's different. So I myself didn't do the ECDIS training until after I'd already done my first sea phase. However, if I was to do the FD route, I would have done before I went. But saying that, a lot of your phase 1, first time at sea, is chipping and painting and maintenance rather than bridge work. So I'd say I was a lot more prepared now to go back. I'm due to go back on the 27th, and I've already done 8 months of college doing various courses, ECDIS, and I feel very, very prepared to go back and be on the bridge environment after having done most of the maintenance stuff for my first sea phase. Yep.
Personally, I didn't feel adequately trained at all with the systems. So going on ship, I hadn't done any training in college for like how to use the ECDIS. We're told what they are, like how they work, but we haven't really told how to use them, how to sort of use the features like the ARPA and the CPA settings. So my first day on the bridge, like starting my bridge duties, the captain's like sort out the radar, and I have no idea what he's asking like me to do. And I think it'd be really beneficial before you go to sea to do your sort of ECDIS courses, your NARAS courses before going to sea, rather than after, because you don't really know what you're meant to be doing, and it's just sort of going by what people are shouting at you to do until you do the right thing. So yeah, definitely like have the courses beforehand would be a lot more beneficial than sort of learning by being shouted at whilst you're at sea.
As about me, Kherson State Maritime Academy now has a policy or politics, how to say, that in cooperation with Marla Navigation, they implement, they try to make Academy a virtual vessel. We have bridge, we have engine control room, we have mooring station, and this policy should be developed. Because it's a great thing, really. Just as about me, I think that I could be prepared more before my first contract, and I hope that this politics will be developed to make a Maritime Academy a virtual reality vessel, and the future generations will be prepared better.
It depends on the people who work on the vessel, because when I arrived, nobody shouted on me, and as to the chipping and painting, captain said that you will work only on the bridge with the third officer, or some maintenance with the third officer. But when I asked something about how does it work or how to fill up something, all officers said, go and read. If you have some questions, then ask. So they did not explain me anything. I started to try to find out this information on myself, and only after this, they started to communicate with me. So courses, yes, I think if before first contract to implement some courses, it would be perfect, but you will cope on yourself this first contract, and anyway.
I think this internet connectivity is a huge issue in today's times on board the ships. What is your view in terms of unlimited internet accessibility versus limited time, also unlimited internet availability from your cabins as against common spaces? One of the studies that has come out is that the internet is causing isolation on board. It leads to depression and mental health issues. There are a lot of studies, there are arguments from both sides, but from your perspective, what do you think is an optimum solution?
For sure, in the working spaces, if will not be internet access, it's even good, because keeping watch with internet is not a watch, I think. But in cabins, for example, let it be not limited, but not so fast. Just enough to call by WhatsApp, not to play some games. Just enough to call. It could be really good. And also, as about depression, I think a majority of people nowadays, they hide their feelings in themselves. Even here, I think that someone sitting here, at least one person, is depressed. It's for sure. People hide their emotions. And maybe it's a violation of the law, but I would recommend owners to monitor the traffic of this internet and to let some psychologists to evaluate what people is searching in the Google, just to avoid some bad situations. It's a very hard job to be a seaman. It's a very hard conditions that they live in, but and I consider these measures to be help. As about internet, I think the speed should be limited. May be limited.
Bit of a side note referring to the internet. Even though you're more connected to your family back at home and your friends, I feel you also, it makes you feel more isolated, because you think you're missing out on stuff. You see your mates' Facebook posts, you're talking to them and this happens, but you're not really missing out on anything important. But just because of you feel disconnected, because the internet sort of bridges it, but not all the way, it makes you feel more disconnected with the internet talking to your mates than just being completely disconnected altogether. That's my feeling about it, at least.
I think that if this internet is really unlimited and the high speed, and it should be provided to each cabin, it's not a problem. There are people who like to communicate, there are people who don't like. But such places as the navigation bridge, engine room, of course, such places should be isolated in order not people to be surfing the internet or watching some films or anything during this job, because it will endanger all the crew and the situation on the ship.
I think that Rajesh's point was that the common spaces being mess rooms. So when you can use internet, still communicating with the crew members. That was the point, right? Yeah, and we support that. That should cover both. You can use the internet and you still communicate. Don't feel isolated. You can share what you just got from the web, and in communication you can share it with the crew members. So it's a good point.
I think we've got time for two very quick questions. Just Pradeep and Bilal. Yeah.
Short question for each one of you. What's your most preferred mode of learning? And I'm talking about learning for competency certificates. not learning extracurricular stuff. Between textbook, doing the same thing on a computer, which is like reading text on an e-learning program, video, or virtual learning, virtual reality, Oculus glasses, that kind of stuff.
I didn't try virtual reality for now, but I guess it will be the best way. For now, the videos also are very good way to study, but as to the video, you can only see. The best way is practical. If you are looking how to make, and at the same moment you are trying on yourself to make this.
And I also think that virtual reality is a technology which should be in the future educational institutions always, because even I, who is not a seafarer, managed to set the diesel generating system by the virtual reality mechanism. So I think that it gives a huge opportunity to cadets to learn and to prepare for their first voyage, for example. And also it depends on how the single person gets the information, because some people can remember things only when another person describes and helps them, and another person can read a book and understand everything, and go just and work. So I think that the system of education should be combined to make it possible to each cadet to understand what is needed from him.
I think as well that there should be a balance. So you could do practical. So you know, clicking this button does this, but you won't actually know the theory behind it. So you sort of need to have the perfect balance of practical, but know how what you're doing affects each other's actions. So like just doing the one thing, you'll know what to do, but you will never know how it works in relation. So personally, I think there should be the balance.
As about engineers, I cannot say about navigators, I'm engineer. As about engineers, as in my academy, first 2 years of study, we work only with paper. It was the requirement of our teacher, and we make every part of the drawing and by our hands. Any O-ring, any snap ring, any just bush, any seal, we draw by our hands. But modern world is developing, and paperwork is not so efficient to make. For example, now I'm required to make for my diploma project 4 drawings, one of which consists of 16 drawings at all. It's much better for me to work with a computer now. But first I studied drawing. Same as about automated ships. Before you announce yourself to be ready engineer to maintain unmanned machinery, just try to keep watching manned one. Thank you.
I'd say depends what you're trying to learn. Especially having done the ECDIS course, there is no way you could possibly learn that purely from a textbook. You definitely need the practical element of it. I find myself sometimes answering navigation questions going, I know how to do this, but what is it I'm actually working out? So then obviously you have to go off and try and figure out what exactly that is. So yeah, I think it's a mixture as well. People learn in different ways, reading, actually doing it. So I think a mixture is definitely the best way.
I just have a simple question, which we have found to be not absent, but less than what we used to get, is mentoring, support to you from your peers. And with internet and stuff, that also engages the senior officers as much as you guys. Taking that aside, what is your experience in today of your peer support, mentoring? Because at sea, that used to be one of the most important way that we used to learn our trade.
My company is quite good with that. We have our own designated training officer, which is usually the safety officer, who has very vast knowledge.
Engineers on board told me one thing that is hard to hard to refuse. They are not paid for my education. If I ask some questions, they answer me, I'm not paid for that. Some of them didn't, some of them asked. I misunderstood the question, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think you just answered what we were looking for.
Yeah, I find it's extremely varied with each officer. Like some officers will be extremely helpful. They'll sit down with you, go through your training book, do this, that, this, sign it off, make sure you know what you're doing. Others will either just tick it off without asking or just not bother. You'll give it to them and be like, yeah, do this later or do this with this officer, and it just really depends. It's up to the individual at the end of the day.
Yes, again, it depends on person, but for example, in my contracts, the captain, for example, made every week, on one day, on Saturday, for example, he made like the meeting with all the cadets on the vessel, and started asking us some questions, and if we had some questions, he answered us and showed us. We walked through the vessel and he asked us, what is this, and explained us a lot of interesting things. And yes, it helps in the big extent, and we are very thankful to such officers who are helping us.
And just short bit of advice, because I had that experience when I had the safety officer, the chief officer, who was supposed to be mentoring on me, but actually he was humiliating me. It was my first contract as a cadet. It was a really difficult situation for me. But then afterwards I found the keys to him, and I started asking a lot of questions. And afterwards he saw my interest. He started to test me, started to give me small assignments, then serious assignments, and we finished the contract as the best friends. So it's about to find the key to the people who are supposed to mentor you, and this will give you an additional advantage in communication and then in your practical study. And now we're going to do...
Yeah, as we're Generation Y and Z, there's one final thing we've got to do before we get off stage.
We're going to do the selfie.
Are you doing it longer arms?
Yeah, longer. Could you please guys squeeze in? My face is all around there. Yeah. Can we get the pictures upstairs? No, we can't.